just to distill it into the main point, where does that anxiety come from? For me, it comes from not knowing who you are, in essence. How big you are, how great you are, how divine you are, in essence. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Rise and shine to the sun beaming down on me. You know I know what I need. You know I know what I need. Yes, indeed. All of my soul, it exists. Hell never known a heat like this. 720 degrees. Lord knows I don't need a fix. Hey, heart of a soldier. Fresh from the line of queens. Fruit of the womb. What if I told ya? Raised in the cradle of civilization too. You know I know what I need. I got that fire in me. Yes, indeed.
That's what's up. Fresh vocals.
Hey.
I like Meshach. Brilliant. Definitely leaving that vocal line in. That was incredible.
Oh, you're recording. Right. Nice, bro.
Right now.
Yes, King.
How you doing, brother?
I'm so well, man.
Good.
So well, brother.
Good. Thank you for sitting down with me, man. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. Finally, we made it happen, bro.
We've been trying to make it happen for a little while. And
yeah.
Gigs, life, responsibilities, yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
I mean, what do they say? They say you don't trust an available builder. If your builder's available tomorrow.
Yeah, whoever you're involved in needs to be in demand.
Yeah, surely.
Because otherwise, what are you doing? What you're doing with them, with whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
What's really going on? If
Yeah,
the guy
yeah.
is just sitting at home twiddling his thumbs waiting for that call.
Terrible.
And do you know what? On that particular note,
Yeah.
you have musicians sitting at home twiddling their thumbs waiting to get booked.
Yes.
Waiting for somebody to give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work actually that's involved in going from singing in your bedroom to singing on stage and getting booked. How long have you been performing now? Because you've had quite a journey in music.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Going back to go forward, I started singing when I was 13 after hearing Lauryn Hill's album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That's what inspired me to start doing music. Prior to that, I wasn't into music in any capacity other than just listening to the Spice Girls or other now 54 pop records or whatever. And although I grew up in a household where reggae was played regularly and Michael Jackson was played regularly, particularly the Dangerous album, football was my thing. But then Lauryn Hill came along, dropped the album, and I was just infatuated, bro. Just so amazed, so intoxicated, and I thought, no, this is what I want to be doing. And then fast forward, many, many moons later, about a decade ago now, I, after working in retail for years, decided to take the plunge and say, no, I'm gonna go full hog with music. And that included moving into the function private corporate event space with a bunch of friends who were on the same trajectory. I.e., when I say a bunch of friends, meaning we formed an entertainment company and started working on getting private clients. And the rest is really history. Since then, a decade later, I've been doing music full-time professionally as my quote-unquote bread and butter and then some.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So you've got a 10-year period where, because I'm going to assume you've sung all your life. Has it been something that you've always
Age
done?
of 13 is when I started. Prior to that, I didn't grow up in a musical household. My mum was musical in the sense that she listened to great music.
Okay.
But I didn't have a mum or dad or siblings or cousins, etc., that were musical influences on me. It really started, although now retrospectively I can see Michael Jackson was an influence, Bob Marley particularly, as well as other reggae artists, because reggae was played so heavily in the household. It wasn't until Lauryn Hill came along and dropped The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill that I thought, oh my goodness, I want to sing.
Great.
And at that time, I couldn't sing. Now, many people, including my wife, have questioned the legitimacy of me saying, oh, I didn't have a natural talent. But honestly speaking, the first showcase I did, which was when I was in year 8, at the age of 13, I came off stage after singing X Factor by Lauryn Hill.
Great.
And my mum was laughing. And she wasn't trying to take the mick, but she just said I was shouting. That's the level of vocal acumen or depthness I had. So she was just laughing because she said I was just shouting. So, but I remember being on stage and being so nervous and remember just defaulting to Bob Marley's, what I knew Bob Marley's dance moves to be, you know, his movements where he used to just get lost. And I just got lost in the performance in spite of all the nerves. And I've carried that with me ever since, just getting lost in performance as best as I can. And I've made it a practice to get lost in performing, get lost in music, so that when all said and done, I know that I've been authentic, I've been self-expressed.
Yes.
I know I've left everything in that space, wherever that space is, you know?
So again, this period of the first decade where you're working retail full-time, there's an inkling that you want to make music in there somewhere.
Well, there's so much more between the age of 13 when starting music and a decade ago, finally moving into the professional corporate function, private event space. There, we're talking about, I mean, I'm 40 next month. So we're talking about...
Don't look a day over 39, bro.
I appreciate it. I was waiting for the millionth compliment, and it's like, no, wait a minute, that's not a compliment, bro.
I mean...
Although, no, it is a compliment. I'll take that.
Maybe not a great one.
Somewhat of a compliment, you know? But yeah, but the space in between, I mean, there's so much to talk about there. The first thing, just to cut a long story short, is when in school, I was part of a boy group with friends from school, and we modeled ourselves off of Boys to Men, Take Six, great legendary gospel group, among others. And we would just sing every lunchtime, just go and sing, sometimes bunk, just go and sing in the music block. And we, fast forward a couple of years, we got signed to a production and management deal with an entertainment company called Big Brothers Entertainment, who were the founding company of the group Big Brothers, if you remember them, the hip-hop pop group. In fact, the Big Brothers group, they were solo artists under Big Brothers Entertainment and then formed a group and then got signed. So we got signed, as me and my group, we got signed to Big Brothers Entertainment, and we went to Atlanta to do some recording with a producer or artist who is now a Grammy Award winner. We also worked with an amazing artist and songwriter called Arrow Benjamin, who wrote I think it's Nothing by Beyonce. In fact, that's his song, and then she essentially covered it. But either which way, we had a lot of great people around us. But nonetheless, we had stars in our eyes, and a lot of people that were around us who were pulling strings. They were young guys just hustling, trying to make things happen. We had a lot of promises that didn't come to fruition. And then in the end, I found myself wanting to go in a different direction musically, because we were very R&B as a group, but I was becoming heavily influenced by the likes of Bilal and D'Angelo and Erykah Badu and all of these other so-called neo-soul artists. And I wanted to explore things musically in a way that I couldn't in the group. So I decided to quote-unquote go solo. And then it was almost like the 10 dark years, where maybe even more, where I felt blocked. Because my identity for the longest time, and at the time it was the longest time, although it was a few short years. When you're younger, short years feels like a few decades. So at the time, my identity was very much locked up in the group. And I've always felt like I wasn't really the songwriter that I needed to be. I wasn't X, Y, Z. So I went through this period of trying to figure out my sound, etc., trying to write and not really feeling like I could write. Then got a weekend job to pay my way as my mum required, and then got locked in. Yeah. And then I became good at that job, and then I started thinking, oh, you know what, maybe music's just a hobby. And I was getting rave reviews. I got customer service sales assistant of the year and all these things. So I was like, oh, you know what? And I really enjoyed it, because I just enjoy connecting with people, serving people, enjoy living life to the full, moment by moment, whenever and wherever I can. So I was like, you know what, maybe I'm going to do this. And I thought, you know, I'll just climb the ladder. And then thankfully I went to a friend's sophomore album launch, Femi Temowo, if you're familiar or not, I'm not too sure, but he's an incredible musician, jazz guitarist. And he released his second album, and I went to the launch and I was mesmerized by that. And that really re-inspired me to start pursuing music again. So then I went home, started playing keys again, practicing keys again. I opened Logic and started producing music again, and just got really invested in that. And then fast forward a number of years, I then make the decision to leave retail and go fully into this. Full time. Yeah.
So what I want to talk to you about is that block that you had when you were working full time, knowing that music maybe was a passion, or at least it was in the distance. It's something that you had since Lauryn Hill, or since your experience of her album, it ignited something in you. But for whatever reason, you know, I won't necessarily say maybe it was a timing thing, I don't know, but there was a block, and that particular block, I think musicians can have at various different stages of their careers, whether or not they're working full-time and doing music on the side, or actually taking that step to do full-time music, but then finding that there's still maybe further that one could go in terms of pushing your own music, in terms of reaching out to people, collaborating, or just building your kind of your circuit, your sphere, building the people around you to put yourself in the best position. But there's always maybe something that nags a little bit and sort of prevents one from going forward. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is because obviously, you've overcome those types of anxieties. You've put yourself now into music full time, and a lot of your other endeavors sit in music, in, you know, not necessarily just on stage. Like you said earlier on, you put together an entertainment company to provide services. So you're not just making music, you're also business minded. Again, so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because you've put together a pretty fascinating project where you're speaking to musicians about some of these blockers.
Yeah.
And I know you spoke to me also about that. And it was a very interesting opportunity to come face to face with some of the things that may hinder one's sort of growth or progression in the music game. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what you've done with your project and
absolutely.
who Meshach The Mind is?
Yeah, absolutely, bro. So it's very much in its infancy. I go by two aliases. Meshach The Mind, my birth name is Meshach, but Meshach The Mind is my artistic alias. And then I also have my consultancy stroke coaching alias, which is the Self-Belief Architect. So there's so much that can be said about this, and I'll do my best to summarize it. I'm essentially someone, for the longest time, as long as I've known, I've always wanted to make a difference in the world, to make an impact, to be a great contribution to the world in some way, shape or form. Music was always the channel through which I thought I was going to do that, and I still am doing that, and I still do that. But entrepreneurship became very much a factor in that for me, because I realized that there's no, well, at least I came to my own self-realization that there's no greater way, not necessarily no greater way, but entrepreneurship at scale for me is a great way through which I can impact the world, because I know that I can generate the revenue that I need to in order to invest in this project or that project, whether profitable or non-profitable. I know that I actually have the resources to do so. And also I think entrepreneurship, when providing a service or a product or a productized service, I know that I'm able to really give value. I want to create valuable things. And I recognize that in creating something valuable that I've developed and that I know can be of benefit to people, of value to people, I know that that's a worthy cause. It's a worthy thing to do. So fast forward to my desire to, again, make an impact, to make a difference. I said to myself, what are some of the best ways that I can make an impact? And there are a plethora of ways that I could. But I recognize that as someone who's been involved in music for all these years, we're talking nearly 30 years now, the community and the network that I'm a part of within the musical world is greater than any other network that I'm a part of, in terms of the numbers, in terms of the affinity, in terms of the connection that I have. So I'm like, you know what? Although there's some other enterprises that I've been involved in, how about I come closest to home and look at ways in which I can inspire and empower artists to overcome the blockages that they may experience, which are preventing them from elevating in their music careers, particularly music artists who create their own original material, who want to create sustainable careers in music from their own original material. I mean, that's something that I'm aspiring to do. That's what I have an ambition to do. That's why I started doing music, is to do my own music. And I still really enjoy the private function-based stuff. But nonetheless, my aspiration is to sing my songs and have them sung. So for those artists who feel blocked for whatever reason, how can I help support them? And well, the first thing that I needed to do is I needed to do the research. And the best way that I felt I could do the research is by reaching out to people in my network and saying, can I sit down with you, have an interview with you, and find out from you what it is, if anything, that's been stopping you from getting to the stage or to the phase in your musical journey that you want to. Because I know firsthand, based on my experience, that there have been so many occasions on which in my past where I've been like, nah, man, like there's so much more to explore, and there is so much to explore. But the first thing is actually getting over those internal blockages, the negative self-talk, the self-sabotage, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, which I know it stopped me from pressing record on Logic, and then finally pressing publish on a music distributor and finally releasing it. Took me years until I finally did a few years ago. And I'm like, who are those folk who are struggling with that first phase that I can assist and then expand out from there? So the self-belief architect is where that comes in. And just I'll close by saying this: self-belief architect, the reason why I call myself the self-belief architect is because for me, life is all about, I mean, there's so much to go into, but life is all about architecting one's reality. We are the architects of reality, our reality, whether we like it or not, know it or not. And for me, self-belief is such an important component in that, not like tokenistic or arbitrary, oh, I believe in myself, but no, what I define self-belief as is going into your imagination and supercharging your imagination with a certain emotion, a certain feeling. And the way you supercharge, or the way I would supercharge my emotion or feeling within my imagination, is I'm imagining what I would feel like if my desired reality were made manifest, and if I were the artist that I see myself as, if I were the being that I see myself as, if I had the relationship that I desired to have, what would the feeling be if I had all those things? So I'm reverse engineering by generating that feeling now and supercharging that, so that there's a self-belief that I have which is not superficial in any way. It's being generated from so much substance that there's nothing externally that will be able to prevent me from moving forward, upward, outward, etc. Hence the self-belief architect. I'm architecting my reality through self-belief.
Yes. So when it comes to the imagination, I mean, obviously this series is geared towards musicians and artists and those who want to make a career and a living within the music industry, or at least get one's gifts and talents and desires and all of that out there. And that's already in the realm of imagination, because I want to perform, I want to be on stage, I want to have my gift in the world. I see myself making music. So the imagination is already there for musicians. That's kind of part of it. You are daring to dream. You're going to have a lot of people saying, get a real job, you know, but it's going to take a while for that dream to become a reality. Now, on that journey where the dream is trying to manifest into the world, there are these anxieties that would prevent one from starting, from pressing record. There are those, you know, the feelings that will just hold you back from doing what you believe you can do. What have you found are some of those common sort of inner voices that musicians have, and also where does it come from?
Some of the patterns, I mentioned some of them: self-sabotage, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. There are a number of archetypes, and I'm still, as I say, this is in its infancy for me. I've started releasing content, putting it out into the world in order to assist people. But there are a few things that I have discovered which I've created as part of my proprietary methodology, one of which is 7 archetypes of the blocked artist, some of which I haven't even committed to memory yet. They're all on paper, right? Or in a Google Doc. But for instance, I can talk about one of those archetypes being the 90% artist. So what is the 90% artist as an archetype? And by the way, the 7 archetypes of the blocked artist, each musician or artist can experience all 7 archetypes, or a selection of them, or one more dominantly than the other, etc. So it's about, really, first and foremost, this system of creating these archetypes is about giving people a frame of reference that enables them to distinguish what's going on within them, so that they can finally make sense of things and then and unmuddy the water, so to speak. But the 90% artist is the artist that is incredible at getting 90% of the work done. 90% of the recording done, 90% of the pre-release campaign done, and then that final 10% evades them because, again, of self-doubt or imposter syndrome or fear of judgment. Fear of visibility is another big one, actually, because what comes with fear of visibility is fear of judgment.
Yes.
It's like, the more visible I am, the more opportunity I'm giving myself to be exposed and to be critiqued and to have fingers pointed at me. So the 90% artist suffers from that. It's like I'm 90% done, but that 10% always evades me. And where does this anxiety come from? Well, there are professionals who have studied psychology and the like and all of these other modalities for decades and decades. I'm not putting myself into that, I say, grouping of people, but I will say this, that as someone who studies myself and believes that I'm very much a firm believer in universal principles that can apply to all people in spite of what your, race, color, creed, and everything else is. Sure. As someone that studies myself, I recognize that one of the universal principles that governs reality is mentalism. The universe is mental, the all is mind. What does that mean? Well, the anxiety, I would say, in answer to your question, comes from a lack of awareness, the lack of awareness of who you really are, in essence, in your most unconditioned state. Now, again, there are a few directions that one could go with, but I would say that one of the ways that I could see that is based on, again, universal principle, is that each of us is pure peace, absolute, unadulterated peace in essence. So if I am not aware of the fact that I am in essence pure peace and that I can go inward and experience that peace in spite of what goes on outwardly, you can take a biblical text, for instance, and as a reference, Jesus in a boat whilst this crazy storm is taking place, and his disciples are there in the boat and they're thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? Yeah. What did you bring us here to die or whatever else? And he's just resting. And that is a parable which is relative to, and relevant to everyone. So if I don't realize that I am pure peace in essence, I'm going to allow the dictates of everything that goes on externally to prevent me from experiencing that peace. However, if I have that awareness and I focus very intentionally and intently on that reality, then there's going to be a vibration, a change in my vibration. There's going to be a change in my frequency. And if there's a change in my vibration and frequency, then there's a change in my reality. Factually. That can be proven on a quantum mechanical level. It's not me just talking fluff. Like genuinely, there will be a change. So again, we've talked for hours before about these types of things, and we could, but just to distill it into the main point, where does that anxiety come from? For me, it comes from not knowing who you are, in essence. How big you are, how great you are, how divine you are, in essence. Yeah.
Powerful. Powerful. I love that. Your desire to be great, your desire to make music, your desire to change the world is perfect. Not only okay, it's needed. It's needed. The world needs it. And you were mentioning some Bible texts. There's a particular verse which says that, I may misquote it, I haven't read the Bible in many years. Essentially, the whole of creation eagerly anticipates the manifestation of the sons of God.
Yeah. I think you're almost verbatim there.
I've read it many times.
yeah. Likewise. Book of Romans, 7, maybe.
Yes, I think so.
Or maybe Romans 9.
No,
one of the
maybe
two.
Romans 8. Maybe right in the middle.
It's there. It's somewhere there. 7, 8, or 9.
7, 8, 9. So the all of creation eagerly anticipates the manifestation of the sons of God. What does that mean? Everything is waiting for us to turn up. Everything is waiting for us to do our thing. The moment it doesn't exist, it's not in the world. The world's eagerly anticipating it. And I think, so for me personally, one of the things I know that stopped me from kind of getting out there, putting myself forward, accepting that music isn't going to leave me. The desire to make music, the desire to work with musicians. So even where we are right now, we're in a place called Tropic 68 in Thornton Heath. Every Tuesday evening, we've got a jazz jam here, a kind of freestyle improv session. And, I do gigs all around the world. I have fantastic gigs. I'm really appreciative of the places that I've been to. I come here every Tuesday for about £50. and I make music with fantastic musicians, and we just create whatever comes, whatever flows, whatever comes, we do that. And I mention that because to shout out Tropic 68, beautiful place, big up. And also to just to mention, so the practical side of things, at least where improv jamming is concerned, in the moment you are letting yourself go. You are in the moment listening to your fellow musician. You're working with what's going on. These environments only work when the ego is out of the way and we all can together create something. Don't pour all the salt in, don't pour all the pepper in. There's got to be a nice balance. Now, when it comes to the musician's journey and making music, putting music out there, making yourself available to the world, being ready to be judged, you kind of have to, similarly so, yes, listen to everybody else, but also do. The judgment will come, and in many ways it's important. Some things are actually quite helpful.
Yep.
I remember somebody quite close to me, I won't mention who it was, but I put out my first project with my band Evening in the Universe, and somebody, I wanted to share this work, and I shared it to him, and I wanted his approval in a lot of ways. I wanted him to say how good it was. And all he said was, yeah, so you got to work on your high notes.
Sheesh.
I'm like, thanks. And yeah, not the answer I wanted. A little bit of truth in there. Some of the high notes needed a bit of work. So a little bit of truth in there. So I can actually take that. I'm not just going to say you're a hater.
Yeah.
You know, it hurt the ego. The
Yeah.
ego got a bit of a bruising. Wherever the ego is it physical? What is it? I don't even know. But wherever it was, it felt it. But at the same time, that criticism was a little bit healthy for me, to be honest. And that only comes about when I allow myself to be criticized. In your study, because I know you said you're quite early in it, it's in its infancy. However, you've spoken to, I believe, 24 people, a couple dozen. Within speaking to people about, and particularly obviously musicians, performing musicians, within speaking to them about not only some of the things that hold them back, but some of the worries around being criticized, around being open. Like, are there any sort of trends that you're seeing around just the fear of being seen and the fear of people having opinions?
Yeah, you know, that I spent about 50 hours across those 24 conversations interviewing. I answered it. The answers that were given to me, I then put into a data sheet that I looked at, and that I looked at all these common patterns. And I think a big thing for people is it seems so elementary, because I think when it comes down to it, first principles and the elementary things of the world and the universe, they're always the anchor point anyway. And it's really like, I've already said it, but I think naturally we're probably going to go in a direction of expanding or expounding upon it more. But it's really fear. Like and I think the fear, maybe unbeknownst to a lot of the folk that I've spoken to, a lot of folk in general, is I think, and right now I'm thinking of, you know, the Nelson Mandela speech, which was a quote of, I don't remember the author, female author. It's not our darkness that frightens us, it's our light. It's our light that frightens us, it's not our darkness. And I think a lot of the time we fear how great we can be. And we fear what it's going to take to become that great or experience that greatness. But I think it's a completely subconscious or even unconscious thing, where you know it's going to take something, you know that you're the thing that, or you at least in potential, you know that you can become that thing. And it's a case of you now running away from that, you know? Like a lot of people that I've spoken to, they've talked about the fact that, you know, oh, and another thing, not to get sidetracked, but another thing is that I think the point that I was making about vibration and frequency is that a lot of people talk, particularly independent artists, talk about the independent artist journey being difficult. And it's a two-sided coin, because yes, but life is difficult. So the way I would like to see it, or the way I like to see it, is this, that even though it is difficult, the fact that you're using that as a frame of reference means that you're in a particular vibration. You are energetically aligning with the very idea of your life as an artist that you don't actually want. You know, and what does that do if we, again, I don't want to get too esoteric, but I naturally go there anyway, but the world, our world is an outpicturing of what's within us. So if what's within us is telling us, oh man, this is so hard, it's so hard, like, you know, without a label, I've got to do it all myself. What, and our subconscious mind is what we are governed by 95% of our waking days. So if our subconscious mind is having those ideas or that energy impressed upon it, then what is our reality going to show us? It's going to continue reinforcing the idea. It's hard to be an independent artist. You know, the labels, without a label, we're not really going to have the ability to leverage music advances, like financial advances, or, you know, we don't really have the connections on radio that we need, and you need to pay to play. So historically you have to pay to play. So it's going to be difficult. And what that's doing is it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And before we know it, we've gone in this vicious cycle where even though things do get hard, the fact that we're defaulting to that on a vibratory level means that that's what we're going to keep on experiencing. So I've kind of gone on a slight dovetail, but it is so related. And for me, I can never ignore the inner work and the inner world that is the plane of causation that produces everything at the affected level in the physical realm. So that's what I found. I found that people fear themselves, they fear their greatness, they fear what it's going to take, and then they also default to how hard it is as an independent musician. It's like, oh yeah, there's so much going on, so, you know, I don't really have the skills, I'm not a marketer. Well, why not? Why are you not a marketer? I'm not really a brand expert. Why not? Why can't you be a brand expert? I'm not really a salesperson. Why not? This is psychology. Like, life is, the people who advance themselves in the most dynamic way are people that understand psychology at every level and understand persuasion. And the first individual that you need to persuade is yourself. So you need to use the same skills of persuasion that all the quote-unquote elites are using on the masses. You need to use that on yourself. You need to impress upon your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, the same things, but in reverse. So, you know, I'm always going to go in this direction, bro.
Of course, I wanted it.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So, on that particular note, which is so key, and you've reminded me of an experience I had. I used to work in IT full time, and I was sort of in between doing music full time, doing IT full time. IT's stable money. You're going to get paid. You're going to get paid every end of the month. The money's coming in, the money's going to be the same. The job I can do. So I was in that loop, wanting to go into music, but wasn't too sure about it. When I made the leap to go into music full time, I wrote down on a small sheet of paper, like about yay big. I don't know why I'm struggling to do this. So yeah, about a small sheet of paper, I wrote down about 10 things about what I wanted to see in my life. And one of them, the very top, was that my music would sustain me. My music would sustain me. People call me for gigs. I'm a saxophonist who gets booked and gets booked often. You know, I get great gigs. I enjoy my life. My family are good. Those around me are good. I had this little bit of paper in my wallet, and I'd read it every morning, afternoon, evening, every day. Every time I remember, every time I opened my wallet and I saw it, quickly just go through it and then put it back in. Consistently. Day 2 of reading that, somebody called me and they were like, Shumi, you still playing the sax? I've got a gig for you. Calls just started coming in. And you were talking about basically impressing on your mind in the realm of imagination. So when it comes to the realm of causation, when it comes to the outer world, the things that we have seen within we start to see without. What did Gandhi say? He said, be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah. And literally, it's, of course, you have to work. Of course you have to work. But when you start believing, you start working. Because you believe what you're going to do works.
This is it.
It doesn't. There's no fairy tales here.
No.
There's absolutely no fairy tales. Things don't magic into position unless you're in some remote village somewhere where they live in juju and that. Generally, at least in the Western world, we don't see things like that. What we do see on the outward is the efforts of those who've thought about something and they've put it out there. So there is a process to actually brainwashing yourself, like 100%. Washing your brain of all the ideas that I'm not good enough or that I can't do X, Y, and Z. If that's a very persistent thought that can't be overcome, then find a simple way of overcoming that. Literally have something down, have an affirmation that you say on a daily basis, and you'll find that just saying that over and over and over and over again, somewhere deep within, you're going to believe it. But that's what you want to believe. You want this life for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You want that life, so it would behoove you to affirm that life. And on that note about affirmations, I want to go one step further. This is something that I've discovered over the last few years, but it's such a key. I affirm, I do perform affirmations, but I've gone one step further into the realm of ask-firmations. So what do ask-firmations like? I love them. I love them so much. I do them almost every day. You're making an affirmation, but rather than making an affirmation that your subconscious mind could reject because it doesn't believe that you believe it, you ask a question. You ask the affirmation. So rather than saying, my life is wonderful, you say, isn't it wonderful that my life is wonderful? Or you say, rather than saying, I am healthy, you say, why am I so healthy?
Great.
I am so dynamic. I'm such a dynamic performer. I'm such a dynamic songwriter. Great affirmations, but go one step further. Why is it that I'm such an incredible songwriter? I just don't get why am I so amazing when it comes to playing keys? Why is it that I'm so amazing at networking? Why is it that people flock to me so much? Why is it that I attract the life of my dreams? I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just doing it. Why? You're now starting to, there's a shift that takes place. And I'll give a real life example of how this massively affected me. There was this one time, 3 years ago now, almost to the day really, where I started practicing this. And for 2 weeks, it was about exactly 2 weeks, I would, at lunchtime, have a nap. But it wasn't just any old nap. It was a subconscious reprogramming nap. What I would do, because I learned that there are various brainwave states. Our waking state is in the beta brainwave state. And this waking state that we walk around and live our lives in is the least programmable state, because we have to have our wits about us. We're using our logic, we're using our rationale, we're using our reason. But below that brainwave state, you have the alpha brainwave state, which is essentially the state akin to sleep. It's the brainwave state that we're in when we just wake up for the first 5 or 10 minutes, or just before we fall asleep. And then you've got the theta brainwave state. Now, those two brainwave states the theta brainwave state is the most programmable. It's where your subconscious mind is most malleable, most impressionable. But the alpha brainwave state, where you're in this state akin to sleep, but you're not quite asleep, that's the point at which you can start reprogramming your subconscious mind, which is at the theta brainwave state. So I'm getting to my point. For 2 weeks, I was having a subconscious reprogramming nap at lunchtime. For 20 minutes, I'd put on some theta brainwave music on YouTube, and I would lie there and I would close my eyes, or I would soften my gaze, and I would murmur, isn't it wonderful that something magical is happening in my life? Isn't it wonderful? Whisper it, whisper it. Fall asleep. I'd nap for about 10 or 15 minutes after doing that. 14 days transpires, I get a call from my sister saying that P Square, who are a legendary Afrobeats act, probably one of two of the biggest acts in the Afrobeats world in terms of bringing Afrobeats to the mainstream music market. They were having a reunion tour, and their final leg was the Royal Albert Hall. And I got this call from my sister saying the promoter wants you to support them doing your own music. I went there after programming the show with my band, went there, performed in front of 5,000 people.
Great.
Sing the media, my media. People was a mass hysteria.
Sang 3 of my own songs in a cover
Great.
song.
Great.
Now, outwardly, there's nothing that I had done to do that. I mean, some may say, well, it was your sister that called me.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, there's a causation there. It's not just correlation, it's absolute causation, because nothing was lining up like that prior. Now, don't get me wrong. Life is magical for me. Prior to that, magical things were happening, but we're talking about something on a scale which really only makes sense if I'm sending out emails day after day to this plugger and that plugger. If I'm doing crazy campaigns, I'd released my new song a couple of months prior, but a lot of the work that I'd done was pre-release stuff, and then after releasing it, I didn't really promote it again. So this is an example, and you're gonna have the critics and those who are dubious out there who are saying, "Oh yeah, that's just coincidence." Maybe so. Well, I like to call the word coincidence is referring to coinciding events. So yes, it is a coincidence. It's a coinciding event, right? It's not random. They're not synonymous. So that's an example of how that worked in my life. Ask-firmations.
Yes.
So your audience can take that and add that to their practices.
I'll add that to my practice.
100%, bro.
I was having a conversation with a musician the other day. Where was I? We were in Belgium. This was last weekend. We were in Belgium playing a sort of post-wedding celebration. This millionaire couple, they're older. They just got married and they wanted to reminisce on the sort of the glory days of sort of the hippie times, right? And free love and all that stuff. So they just put on a festival in their back garden. A couple thousand people, massive stage.
Insane.
You know, free food, free drink. Everyone was enjoying themselves.
Wow.
And we were sat in the green room and we're having a conversation. And somebody said, you know, aren't we just so lucky to be doing this kind of thing? Aren't we so lucky to be traveling the world, having these experiences? And I said, no. I said, no, it's not luck. Because then why are you so lucky all the time? Because you're having these gigs all the time. Your luck is crazy. This is luck. You have completed the luck game because it's coming so regularly. You are putting yourself in the right position. Your mindset is right. You're practicing your craft. You're putting yourself out there. You're putting energy towards the thing that you want to do, and you're seeing it realized. It would be lucky if you started gigging last week and then got the Royal Albert Hall gig. That would have been a coincidence. That would have been lucky.
Yeah.
But this is something that you've been doing for years and for years and for years, to the point where you've broken through to a plane where now your common experiences are of a certain level. To others, it will seem lucky. And I think, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to be in any way big-headed or egotistical, but when you have performed and done the work for years and you get through to these places, what is regular for you would seem like it's lucky for somebody else.
Yes.
And it's okay to be, and one shouldn't be boastful about what they do. But I think it's important also not to diminish the work that has been put in, and to accept that actually, given the time and the effort and the work and all of the striving that I've done, I've ended up here. But let's not forget that part has taken a very long time. Yes, you've got a gift, but your gift isn't 100 the day you get it. It's at 1, and let's work that out. You suggested, because I also don't believe you suggested that you couldn't necessarily sing too tough.
Honestly, bro.
If you hear this guy, well, you will hear, because I'll put a clip at the beginning of the video. When you hear him sing, this sounds like it comes from years back. Years back. The very, very soul, brother.
I appreciate you.
But it's effort, and you've worked at it, and it's something that has to happen continually, and you have to keep stoking that fire. So I just want to make sure I don't keep you for too long. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and I end all my conversations with this question. Regarding, actually, and I'm glad it's you, because I ask this question to everybody, but I know you give me a very fascinating take on this. Regarding your inner perception of yourself, what is your most valuable opinion?
Of myself.
Of yourself.
To put it simply, I am the architect of my reality. I am the architect of my reality. Every single experience that I've ever had on this plane of existence is as a result of my architecting it, in spite of whether I knew it or not, liked it or not, thought it or not. And the reason why I see that as my most valuable opinion is because that empowers me to a degree that I can experience anything that I want to. I'm not disabled by externality. I'm not a victim of externality. I am everything that I experience, good, bad, and ugly. I'm architecting. And that gives me a level of power that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I now get to accept everything. I get to embrace everything, acknowledge everything, respond to everything, react to everything. And I get to choose my vibration in the midst of it all. I get to choose my vibration when I'm interacting with folk that I like, that I don't like, circumstances that I like, circumstances that I don't like. That is, I think, probably number one. Number one for me. I did mention earlier on that essentially we are unconditioned peace. And I believe that to be true about myself. So I feel like that is almost like a prerequisite in some way to me being an architect of my reality, is that I know that I'm pure unconditioned peace. So anything and everything that happens is all right because I'm at peace, you know? So yeah.
On that note, brother. I appreciate you. You almost finished that point. You almost finished that point.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel like in many ways me being the architect of my reality is me recognizing or being aware of the fact that I'm unconditioned peace, love. And that point of departure enables me to really experience the life that I want on the most dynamic level possible.
Brother, thank you for sharing.
It's a pleasure, King. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Honestly.
It's been great, man.
Yeah, man, it has.
Yes.
And a long time coming.
Yeah, man, but it was worth it.
Absolutely.
It was worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for waiting, because I know you need to head.
What time is it now?
Wifey.
7? Oh, look at that, bro.
There we go. Hang on,
man.
Hang on.
The time is not as bad as I thought.
I'm not sure how true that is.
Yes, bro.